What if the season you're trying to escape is the very season God is using to prepare you? What if obscurity isn't punishment, but training? Subscribe for daily understanding and faith-building stories. Moses wasn't ready when he had power. He wasn't ready when he had passion. God had to take him to Midian first, because before calling comes character, and before the spotlight, God works in the shadows. Obscurity is God's classroom. Moses began life with promise, saved from the river, raised in Pharaoh's palace, educated in Egypt's wisdom, surrounded by power, privilege, and position. From the outside, Moses looked ready, but on the inside, he was still impulsive, angry, and self-directed. One day, seeing an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, Moses acted in his own strength. He killed the man. He thought his calling gave him permission, but instead of applause, he got exile. Pharaoh wanted him dead. The people he tried to save rejected him, and in one moment, Moses went from palace to pasture. When Moses lived in Egypt, everything reinforced his importance. He wore royal clothing. He spoke with authority. He had influence without responsibility. But humility cannot be learned in comfort. So God removed Moses from the palace, not because Moses was unqualified, but because he was unsubmitted. In Egypt, Moses tried to deliver people with his strength. In Midian, God taught him to depend on God's strength. Shepherding sheep was not a downgrade, it was a discipline. Sheep don't respond to shouting. They don't move on command. They wander, resist, and require patience. Every day in the wilderness, Moses was being retrained, from force to gentleness, from impatience to endurance, from control to trust. God often humbles those he plans to elevate because pride collapses under pressure. If Moses had confronted Pharaoh with palace pride, he would have failed again. But when he returned after Midian, he walked with quiet authority. Humility is not thinking less of yourself. It's thinking less about yourself. And obscurity strips ego faster than applause ever will. Midian was loud with silence. No praise, no audience, no validation. Just Moses and God. Silence is uncomfortable because it exposes what applause hides. In silence, you face your fears. In silence, you confront your motives. In silence, God reshapes your inner life. In Egypt, Moses spoke impulsively. In Midian, he learned restraint. Scripture tells us that later in life, Moses became the meekest man on earth. That meekness was not natural, it was cultivated. Silence taught Moses how to listen. Stillness taught him how to discern. Loneliness taught him how to depend on God. Some lessons cannot be taught publicly. God works deepest in you when no one is watching. That's why many of God's greatest servants had long hidden years, because character formed in secret sustains public calling. If God has reduced the noise in your life, it's because he's refining your spirit. Midian probably felt meaningless to Moses. No leadership role, no visible impact, no confirmation of destiny. But God's training rarely looks impressive. The desert that seemed useless was preparing Moses for 40 years in another desert. The sheep Moses led daily were practice for leading stubborn people. The solitude Moses endured tuned his ears to hear God's voice clearly. Nothing in Midian was wasted. God often assigns you to environments that feel beneath you, not to insult you, but to shape you. Your current job, your waiting season, your hidden struggle may be the very place where your future capacity is being formed. Relevance in God's kingdom is not measured by visibility, it's measured by faithfulness. If God trusted Midian with Moses, he may be trusting your obscurity with you. What looks like delay is often design. What feels like obscurity is often instruction. And what seems like silence is often preparation. Because God never promotes character he hasn't first refined. The burning bush didn't appear when Moses was ambitious. It didn't appear when he was confident. It didn't appear when he thought he was ready. It appeared when Moses was faithful in obscurity. For 40 years, Moses walked the same desert paths, led the same sheep, watched the same sunsets. No signs, no wonders, no reminders of destiny. Then one ordinary day, God interrupted the ordinary. A bush burned but was not consumed. That alone tells us something. God doesn't always show up in the spectacular. He shows up in the faithful routine. The bush was not in Egypt. It was not in a palace. It was in the wilderness, because God reveals himself where pride can't survive. When Moses approached, God said, "Take off your sandals, for the place where you stand is holy ground." The ground didn't change. Moses did. The wilderness became holy when God spoke. And notice this. Moses didn't argue with God about his greatness. He questioned his weakness. Who am I that I should go? That question proved Midian had done its work. Before Midian, Moses said, "I will deliver them." After Midian, Moses said, "I am not able." That's when God answered, "I will be with you." Because calling is never about your ability, it's about God's presence. Timing matters. God does not rush destiny, because destiny requires durability. If God promotes you before your character is formed, your calling will crush you. So God slows you down, hides you, refines you, not to deny you, but to protect you. Moses needed Midian so Egypt would no longer live in him. The anger had to be healed. The ego had to die. The self-reliance had to be replaced with surrender. Character is what sustains you when gifting attracts pressure. Character is what keeps you faithful when success invites temptation. God never anoints ambition. He anoints obedience. And when God finally sent Moses back to Egypt, he didn't send a prince. He sent a shepherd, because a shepherd knows how to care, endure, and listen. If you feel hidden right now, you're not forgotten. If your life feels quiet, God is not absent. If you're doing faithful work that no one sees, he sees. Midian may feel slow, but it is intentional. The desert is not delaying you, it's deepening you. One day, God will call you forward, and when he does, you'll realize the shadows were mercy, because when the pressure came, you didn't break. When the responsibility came, you were ready. So don't rush the process. Don't despise the waiting. Don't abandon the season. The same God who met Moses in the wilderness is shaping you right now. And when your burning bush moment comes, you'll understand. Obscurity was God's classroom. If this message spoke to you, like the video, share it with someone in a waiting season, and subscribe.